Good day, it is Stephen Davis here, and in this video I will discuss the various equipment and tools that you need to build a precast fence. Precast fence is also known in various places as a Vibracrete fence or as a concrete fence. Here are the materials that the tools that you will need and that I used. Yours may differ depending on your situation. The reason why I made this video is because the tools in itself I discussed in various videos where it is applicable, and I now will shortly discuss the various tools, how it is used, so that you can get a greater sense of why it is needed. You can use this list when you go to the shop or when you just need to check what you have and what you need to borrow. The first tools is to locate the boundary pegs. The boundary pegs, of course, you'll need a plan, and you will use a plan a lot of times throughout the process. You'll need a measuring tape and a builder's square to measure, of course, the things. You'll use wooden pegs, a hammer, a helper, and a spade, because these things you can't do alone. You then, after finding the peg, you need to set up the fence and mark the fence line on the boundary. For that, of course, also you the plan. You'll need a builder's line, and then also rods to put in to attach the builder's line, something to hit in the builder's line, the hammer. You may also need a string level if you want to level the area out, but sometimes you may work at a slight decline and you do not feel it necessary to have a string level. You may use a duct tape additionally to prevent the sagging, or because you work on a an area where there's maybe a lot of movement. It is also possible just to tie the string to another rod, and to make the area shorter, instead of having long areas that you use a string level for. You just shorten it, so that it's optional. Now, tools you will need to level the ground. Of course, you need spades, 2 spades, maybe a shovel. If the area is loose, you may need a pickaxe if the area has grass, soil, and the soil is compact. You may even go out and use cement break. It all depends, but this is my circumstances and my situation. You may need other things, but this is just a guide. You can use and make a jigsaw to level the ground to the desired height. A plank jig, you make the plank jig and just measure it out. It's easier than every time measure where did the people level it. I made a multiple jig plank. This is a tip. You use the jig that I will describe later on to space the poles. You just make a 30 centimeter mark on it, and then you can also use the same plank to for other purposes. But the first thing that I want to say in terms of leveling the ground, use this plank as 30 centimeter, and then you know what the thing is to height is to level the ground. Where you must, of course, you need to mark the posts and the holes where the post must come. Of course, you need a building plan again. Use a jig. This is faster than every time measuring it, but the jig in this case is a little bit longer than the panel itself, because you need to put it take into consideration the posts itself themselves. After you dug the holes, you can cut off the extra length there, make the jig, the plank, the same size as the panels, and then you have something in additional to space the inside of the posts. As I said, that is the multiple jig size of the and the height of the panel. This is the distance of the post hole and the top of the first panel. A jig that you will use especially when you lay the first panels. All these things I discuss in other videos in better detail. I just discuss the uh, tools and give you a short background to it. Here is the multiple jig plank that you ultimately use. You cut off the end after using it to space the holes. Then you have something to space the posts as well as to level the ground. You can make a jig to mark the outline and also to determine the depth of the holes that you use. Of course, you can need a pen to draw the center and the outline of the holes. And after you draw it, you can just mark it with a peg, or since you use these pegs to determine the boundaries. Now, the tools you need to dig the holes. As you say, in my case, I use a shovel, spade, and a pickaxe. You use optionally a crowbar. Sometimes there's a layer some way a little bit deeper, but I don't think I will need it. But the crowbar, in any case, I use it to move it, so I can use it also should I encounter higher and hard soil. And then because I live in a coastal area, there's mostly sand, and I do not have the luxury of a machine that clam shell digger. I sometimes use an old pot or a container to take out the sand later on because the hole is deep. And then the bottoms on the sides of the hole must be compacted. If we use a DIY compactor, not necessarily to rent it. I do have a just a sledgehammer that's heavy with something beneath it, and you attach it to, of course. Equipment you need to plant and level the posts. These things maybe I need a helper or a physical machine to mix the concrete, wheelbarrow to move the concrete, hose pipe of course to mix it, and then also a shovel to scoop the concrete from the wheelbarrow into the hole, or just to throw it into the hole. If you're not comfortable, use gloves. So don't you work with these instruments every day. Even if you have it, it's just good. Then make a plank jig to just mark the poles, the bottom of the first panel and the top of the first panel. If you make a plank jig, it's easy every time measuring, since it's quite a few poles that you need to measure. And then you use a crayon, two crayon types of crayon. Top is one color, bottom is another color. It's also a boulder square. And then jig plank to confirm that the size of the pole, the top of the pole, and the size of the hole is correct and it will fit. You can also use a measuring tape, but as I said, you can use a jig that I explained earlier on. And then two types of crowbars. It's good to have a bigger crowbar that you and your helper can use. Maybe you can tell your helper to use it, and then you can direct him. And then there's a shorter one that you can use with your hand alone, one hand. You can have a short one. You can have one, of course, a little bit longer than this, but lighter. The essence is you must be able to use it with one hand. Then there's a wooden pole. If you throw in the concrete, you must steady the concrete, spread it out at the bottom and also later on. So post level is very good because it helps you to level the posts both ways, sides, and then also remember a rubber band. You use the usual ordinary spirit level is most handy item for the posts as well as the panels. You need some bricks to steady the poles and also maybe longer poles to steady it. Remember a grinder, the grinder must have a masonry blade, not an ordinary blade. Otherwise there's problems. You can maybe use a lead if you don't have a battery operated grinder. Have measuring equipment, tape square, marking tools to cut the panels to size. And of course safety when you cut the panels to size is very important, because you work here with instruments that can damage you and cut off parts. But the dust mask and the face mask come in here. In equipment you need to finish the panel. Maybe just a garden trowel and a builder's trowel to fill in the holes, and then you need at the end after you fill up the holes on the side, you just need maybe a spade and a garden rake to fill up the soil at the bottom of the panel. As I said, I discussed the use of these tools in the other videos in greater detail. Here is just a list of the tools and then a short discussion of the relevance thereof. Thank you very much for watching this video. We love constructive criticism, comments. Please like, share and subscribe.